It's hard to start over. Very hard to start over. Honestly, though, starting over after 40, it's not as weird as people make it. Why do people do it, though? Like, what are the actual reasons? Well, at some point in their life, around 40 and after that, we wake up and realize that life is a whole lot bigger than what we thought it was. The way I look at it is like this. Spend first 30 years of your life learning the game of life and how to play it. The second 30, you're actually playing the game. And the last 30, you finally let go of the game. And the ultimate let go is letting go of the body would die. The ultimate let go right there. So in that middle 30, at that point, at that very point, something clicks inside of us and says there's more to life than what's. So people lose the job. The company downsized, now you're gone, you got laid off, the whole industry just kind of died. Now what? What's going to happen next, right? You lost it. The second biggest thing around that time is divorce happened. Divorce went down. Your whole life was just built around this relationship with someone else. That's gone now. It ain't coming back, and everything else is starting to change. And then, of course, you feel like you're stuck in the mud of life. You wake up, and it turns out to be the same thing every day. You're not unhappy exactly, but you're definitely not happy. And you haven't found your purpose. Interesting, right? And then finally, the whole idea where the ego clings to wanting more. I need more. I have to have more. I must have more. And then you realize, wow, okay, there's more to life than more. You realize the bigger picture. You did the thing that everyone said you should do. You got the degree, you got the house, you got the career, you got whatever you want. But here's the deal, you don't like it. And now you want change. It's way more normal than you think. And here's the thing that actually no one is telling you about. The average person changes careers about 5 to 7 times in their life. 5 to 7. I myself have changed it. I've done the most amazing careers of my life. And it's quite exciting. Each one just led to the next. But the most successful businesses are the ones started by people in their 40s. Not their 20-somethings wearing a hoodie. Not at all. In their 40s, believe it or not. Reason for that is they've already gained a ton of life experience and have had errors way in the past that they've learned from. And they want to start over, but do it in a different way. They want to recreate what they did in the past, but they're going to play their cards completely different now. Now, when you look at it this way, your parents' generation stayed at the same job, and we were told, stay in the same job for the next 30 years. Well, when COVID-19 came along, that died with it, okay? The idea of getting in a job for the next 20 years, that died with it. We all realized that people were walking away from their jobs that they were enlisted in for 20 or 30 years. They were signed up for it, and they were done. They were finished. The straw that broke the camel's back, and they walked. And that's what happened during that time. It was the Great Exodus, as it was called. Well, guess what? Still kind of going on. We're starting to realize that there's more to life, and quite honestly, it's not about wearing the golden handcuffs for your job where you get to, trade your soul for a 401k. It's not about that anymore. People want a little bit more. So the scary part with it, and let's not pretend that this isn't difficult or terrifying sometimes. The very first one is money. That's the scary part. You have a mortgage, maybe some kids. You can't just eat ramen for a year like you could when you were 22. It doesn't happen. The bills aren't going to stop. They're going to pile up while you try to actually figure it out. So that stress and pressure gets greater. Then you get a little older, and society has this weird little thing where they start to act like if you haven't made it by 35, you're done, which is pure garbage. But somehow, some way, some shape or form, it seems to get in your head, and that's hard to actually pry it away from your ego. Then we have judgment. The judgment of your family, the judgment of your friends, the random people. You start to use the phrase, I should be at. At my age, I should be at this. At my age, I should be at that. So we fall into comparison culture and we go down the slippery slope. But we don't realize that everyone has an opinion. Everyone has an opinion, and you're giving up a good thing. Well, what about your retirement, right? It's a lot. So that's what they start to throw down on you. So suddenly, you're left feeling like you've been judged. So is there any good parts to this whole story? Well, I like to say so. I think so. I believe so. And here's what 40 and over actually has going for you. You actually get to know who you are, truly who you are. At 22, well, you were guessing a little bit. You were still figuring it out. but now you know what you're good at, and you also know what matters, like what actually matters in your life and what makes you miserable. And we also look at experience because experience is a real advantage. Experience is the kind of thing where you can't YouTube it. You're at a point where it's like, I've been through that. I remember what it's like. I'm very succinctly clear on what the truth actually is. And there's only a few options, and I've made it through all of them, so I now have it in that area. So when it comes down to it, the real advantage is that experience of 20 years of dealing with people, interpersonal, solving problems, handling the heavy pressure that you've always felt. That somehow seeps into your heart from somewhere, and it comes in, and it also comes into your mind, providing you with that experience for the long haul. Now, the other interesting idea, the good part, you start to care less about what people think. You stop giving a shit. Something actually clicks in your head around 40, and you're like, I'm no longer interested in trying to impress everyone else. You start doing what actually matters, what's actually important. And which, by the way, 40 plus, it goes way beyond that. You might hit it in your 50. That's okay. No big deal. But you figure out what actually matters. Purpose matters. Health matters. To some of us, it does. Health matters. Life and the time we spend with people actually matters. So it gets to be really crucial. So the real things you could actually do, not some vague BS advice, but something that will actually create momentum and move you forward. One, you could actually go back to school. You could always upgrade yourself. It might be more interesting the second go around, and you might actually take it far more seriously than you did the first time. Community college, courses, certifications, whatever the case may be. You don't need a whole entire new degree unless you really feel like you want to. But sometimes just one or two classes not only get you to meet new people, but also give you a new direction. Switching careers. Yes, I've done this. I've done this several times. Your teachers can actually become UX designers, and accountants can become chefs. Your skills aren't tied to one thing. I've said this to many people. You are evolution across time, period, full stop. You are not tied to one job across your entire life. And if you are, and your ego's tied to it that bad, if you lose it one day, you'll feel like you've lost your whole identity along with it. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Because if you're a carpenter, everything looks like a hammer and a nail. But the moment a carpenter loses both hands, he will feel like he lost his identity. Either that, or he'll have to use some kind of accessibility tool or skill to actually change his life and start over. So it becomes really difficult when you stay locked into a particular identity where other people could actually become flexible. And some people will say, well, that's all I'll ever be. That's all I'll ever done. And they will tie that to their identity, and they'll make it so finite that they can never break out of that mindset. Now, outside of the careers, you could actually move somewhere new. Go to a different city, different place. You realize that when you move to a different city, you move to a different place, your happiness really hasn't changed. You realize that you're unhappy in two different cities. Or you realize that, wow, okay, it's a different people. The vibe here is different. I like it. The restaurants are better. It's a different country even. And sometimes a new environment actually gives you a bit of momentum, as long as you realize that the environment doesn't make you. Your internal happiness is not a finish line. It's a process. And understanding that you're going to make yourself and work towards happiness to the best of your ability no matter where you live. That being said, we could always start something small, a side hustle, some freelancing, a tiny business, become a contractor. And you don't have to quit your job tomorrow or start on the side. That's not something you have to do. But there is some fear, and the fear actually does happen. And dealing with the fear is a big deal because guess what? It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. You're going to have to face it at some point. Some people say, I have to be ready. But guess what? When you're 40, you stop waiting to feel ready. That feeling literally never comes. You just do it anyway. You start anyway. You're going to say, I'm going to figure out it as I go. A lot of the information isn't present right now. I'm not going to Google my way through it. I'm just going to figure it out as I go. Then what happens is you talk to one person who did what you want to do, just one person, and it makes it feel very possible instead of Herculean task. Now, what you start to understand is that they're expressing something that fills in the blank of an area that you didn't know. So basically, they enlighten you with a piece of information that makes it a whole lot easier than you actually thought it would. You give yourself a bit of a time limit for deciding. So I'll try this for 6 months. It's not going to be forever. I'm just going to do it for 6 months. And it's going to be a test run. I'm going to run some tests. You start to experiment more. And there's way less pressure as well, which is awesome. The people who actually did it, right? They're not celebrities, they're regular people with regular problems, right? You could take a look at one person who was the bank teller for 18 years. They got laid off. So they used their savings to actually code and go to a coding boot camp and they get their certificate. Now they work remotely as a developer. And they said, oh, you know what? Probably should have done it sooner. Or what about the person that moved from the suburbs to a small apartment in the city? They started volunteering, made new friends. Eventually, they opened up a little woodworking shop on the weekends, and they love what they're doing. And then you look at the person who was in marketing, but absolutely hated it, despised it, couldn't stand working with certain people. They went back to community college, they decided to take up nursing, and at 40, they happened to be the best in their class, even though it felt weird for a couple weeks. But no one else cared, so they figured, well, why do I have to care? So here's the deal. You might say, okay, so what do I do? Well, if we think about Monday, this coming Monday, the Monday that's coming up, first of all, you need to take a hard look at those small steps that you actually want to do. The best thing you could do is take some time to settle on one decision or settle on one idea. And the way you could do that is write it down. Write down what you'd do if money wasn't a problem and be very honest about it. Be straightforward with yourself. Then feel free to Google a free course or maybe a video about that one thing. Educate yourself about it. Get educated about it and be careful because you don't want to go off into the digital weeds. A lot of people go for the digital weeds. They go in the digital forest, the digital weeds, and they get lost in it because they're looking for the legend of the silver bullet, that one video that will give them everything, when in actuality, there's probably a video that's quite simple. But here's the deal. When you're going into an industry, study the fucking industry standards. Every industry has standards. Follow the standards and find out what's changing. That's where you begin. That's what I'm going to actually tell you. And then, of course, after you figure that out, tell one person you actually trust, someone you care about, someone that doesn't judge you harshly, and someone doesn't rip you into pieces, someone who could hold you accountable. You're not telling them for permission. You're actually stating that this is what I'm going to do. And I'm not telling you for any other reason other than I'm going. That's it. It's a simple expression. Then take a look at your actual monthly expenses. Take a look at your money. Figure it all out. Know what your number is. Know what your number is. And if you are negotiating, have a number that you would walk away on. Say, okay, we're going to offer you this amount. In the back of your head, you're like, that's my walk away number, and I'm walking away from this deal. Sorry, I'm going to have to, I can't work for that kind of money. I got to go somewhere. I can't take the deal. That's it. You move on. Now, some people, what they tend to do, especially in their 40s, and this happens all the time, is they compromise their integrity. They take that lower paying rate. They figure, oh, well, I got to break into the industry. Let me break in. They take it, and then they regret it later when they realize that it's harder. Maybe it's much harder. There's more difficulty or whatnot. Some people might take it and might suffer it out for a short period and then maybe really do well at it and then get promoted. It goes that way as well. Keep that in mind. But at the end of the day, you don't want to compromise your integrity. So you got to figure out what those monthly expenses are and know what your walkaway number is if you're negotiating with anybody. Then the last key point, do one thing toward the new thing every week. That's it, just one. Every week, there's going to be something new, a new topic, a new course, and you're just going to do one thing towards that. We have this tendency to want to do more, not realizing it's all about focusing and niching down what we need to do. So guess what? I'm just going to say this on this episode. You are not starting from nothing. You're not starting from zero. You're not starting from absolute zilch. You are literally starting from a place of experience at that point. So 40 and plus, that's not the end. You are literally just getting started. You are still in that second phase of life, second 30 years of your life. So this is where it actually gets interesting. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm Mario Leone, and thank you for dropping by the Voices of Victory channel. Don't forget to click on the link below, because that link below will take you to my Patreon, where we could actually grow together. Take care. See you in the next one.